After a rough start as Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance is now leading the Republican effort to define the Harris-Walz ticket and to regain the momentum. I caught up with him this weekend at his home state of Ohio. Trump was asked recently very directly, would you be ready to be president on day one?
Sure.
And it was notable that he didn't answer the question. Instead, what he said is the vice presidential candidate doesn't matter. I mean, what did you...
Ooh, that's gotta hurt, man. He did say that. Big L.
you make when you heard him not answer that directly?
Well, he said that a million times, both in private and in public.
But he's asked really directly,
right.
Are you ready?
Most people, oh, come on, John. He's right. Most people, 99% of the country, they don't vote on who the vice presidential nominee. They're voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris, not for JD or Tim Walz, right? But what I think that he does believe, because he made it the main focus of his vetting process, is, do I think this person can be president on day one if, God forbid, something happens? Yes. So I absolutely am sure that Donald Trump is confident in my abilities. I also think that he's right. That
Ooh, I mean, he deserves it. He's such a conniving little backstabbing, carpet-bagging worm that, like, that's exactly the type of person that Donald Trump wanted. Oh, it's a real Theodore Cruz moment here. Cuck chair.
politics of this really don't matter that much.
One of the proposals, it's in the platform, you've talked about it, Trump's talked about it, is a mass deportation. Now, I know he said, you'll start with the easy ones, the criminals, people commit crimes, deport them. But he said deporting 15 to 20 million people. How do you actually do that?
Well, John, we have to start with the fact that we have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies.
But how are you going to get 10 to 15 to 20 million people
out of the country? Well, the first thing you have to do is to stop the bleeding, stop the open border, get Kamala Harris out of there, and actually re-implement the Remain in Mexico policy, rebuild or finish Donald Trump's border wall, and you do that and you stop.
It's pretty funny to be like, nobody cares about the VP, and then be like, Kamala Harris was the principal responsible party for the border as the vice president. I think holding their feet to the fire about mass deportations and what that looks like is important. And I think the Republicans do understand that that is going to look like straightforward fascist narratives that will cause Americans to take a second look at the mass deportations proposals and be grossed out by it, which is why he's like, oh, we just got to stop the bleeding.
Now, you're right. Once you do that, once you stop Kamala Harris's open border policies, you've got to do something with the people who are already here. And I think that you take a sequential approach to it. You are going to have to deport some people. If you're not willing to deport a lot of people, you're not willing to have a border when there are 20 million illegal aliens in our country.
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean...
Well, John, I think that's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay, so,
yeah, it's just like Hitler when talking about the number of Jews that he wants to melt in concentration camps. This is a wrong attitude. It's just 6 million. I mean, when you think about it, it's just 6 million. It's fine. It's like, it's an insane thing to say. You are talking about 15 million humans, dude. Like human beings with children, human beings with lives, human beings with homes, human beings with like goals, aspirations. Like you cannot just hand wave that aside.
Knock on doors and ask people for their papers.
Again, but I think there's a wrong...
Bro, I think I got some motherfuckers producers watching me. I'm just saying
to take of it. Okay, so
you go knock on doors and ask people for their papers.
Again, but I think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable, you do that, and then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that
let him flail. This is great. Ask him how you are going to deport 15 million people, bro. How are you going to do that? You're going to knock on doors, ask them for their papers? What is that going to look like? Equating deportations to genocide is so dishonest, big guy. You know, like Hitler wanted to originally also potentially deport the Jews too. Like, it's not like they were immediately like, no, we're just going to start doing the murder tomorrow. That's not how this works. You build up to it. You can't really be like, yeah, we want to kill 15 million people. Surely when you take 15 million people with like American citizen children, with jobs, with, car payments that participate in the economy. Oh, the Madagascar plan was a plan proposed by Nazi German government to forcibly relocate the Jewish population of Europe to the island of Madagascar. Guys, it's always deportations are notoriously a perfectly valid, perfectly perfectly permissible, perfectly peaceful situation. Who amongst us has not originally had mass deportation programs that they then turned into mass ethnic cleansing campaigns in general?
If you deport a lot of violent criminals, and
At
frankly,
what
if you
point
make
does
it
immigration become excessive, if ever? Immigration is a thing that would never actually be a problem for the receiving country if the receiving country was actually utilizing and properly processing all of the migrants that are coming in. There is no lump of labor. The issue here is that there is a two-tier immigration system. There's a two-tier labor system. Migrants coming in mean that there is need for more houses. You have to build more houses now. Who's going to build the houses? Who's gonna transport the materials? Those are workers. Okay, you need to make better roads in order to connect these towns that you are building. Who's going to make the roads? The people that you are bringing into the country create more economic opportunities for the people that are already in the country. This is the reason why, in the simplest terms, there is no lump of labor. The lump of labor is a fallacy that goes back to like the 18th century when economists were like, there is no such thing. The problem with migrants, the problem in air quotes with migrants, is completely born out of right-wing hysteria. Right-wing hysteria that ties back to white flight and other white supremacist attitudes and values.
Now, here's the more important thing, John. Why are we talking about inflation? Why are we talking about the fact that groceries are unaffordable thanks to Kamala Harris's policies, and so is housing? We've talked a little bit about the border. Why are we talking about the fact that the entire world is on fire because Kamala Harris's foreign policy, she's just asleep at the wheel? We have a set of plans. You talk about sticking to the facts. Donald Trump and I have a set of plans to lower the cost of housing and food, to bring peace back to the world with American leadership. That is all that we want to do, and I think it's telling.
Listen to his words. Donald Trump does this as well. The reason why Republicans act like they are peaceful doves is because the Democratic Party has completely lost the plot on being the party that used to advocate for peace. They did this in the same exact way as to how they completely capitulated to the right-wing framing on immigration. I saw this in my own lifetime. Post 9/11. Surely, of course, there were Democrats that were always, warmongers themselves. But you have to remember, from the Clinton era onward, the Democratic Party has actively switched its attitude towards more war. Republicans, on the other hand, despite the fact that they are obviously warmongers and genuinely bloodthirsty, at least see a benefit in presenting themselves as the ones who will bring about world peace. Very important to understand.
I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Oh, he did say that. Bro, Trump is so awesome. He can't stand being perceived as unintelligent, but more importantly than that, he can't stand not being perceived as popular. He can definitely stand being perceived as like violent and aggressive and all of these things that invoke power. But the moment that you call him a weirdo, he crumbles, dude. He's like, nah, they were talking about JD Vance, actually, not me. They were saying that about JD.
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to.
You're such a cuck. This is precisely why he was selected to be VP, because he is such a gross little worm, dude. Oh, he just took it. Bro, he just ate that. Oh my God, JD Vance is, I know exactly what photo this is. Yep, this is JD, baby. Oh, embarrassing. To be fair, there's not really much he could do to fix that, to salvage that, because it's so obvious. I mean, he literally said Trump can't be racist because he called wife Usha beautiful. I don't know how you just allow yourself to be embarrassed over and over again in front of the entire nation. I can tell you, it's when you're a careerist douchebag with no discernible position beyond having proximity to power. JD Vance was already a carpetbagger. He rose to prominence by literally selling out the Appalachian people, his own people. He called his mother a crackhead in his book and said she was gross. He said the mountain people have a unique way of just being resentful and angry. Part of that was dire economic prospects that were presented to them, but also the other reason was because they just did not have any sort of real attitude towards picking themselves up by their bootstraps. They're all uniquely fent-addicted monsters. He's gross, dude. And liberals loved it. Liberals were like, oh my God, please tell me more about how these mountain people are just like racist monsters who are all fent-addicted losers. Please tell us more about that. Oh, sanctioned one who knows how to whisper to the white working class.
But I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about, just take a couple of days ago. Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech, and I saw my wife, and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife, and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is...
Dude, that's not going to work. Bro, nope, you can't do that. Number one, he's still getting his talking points from Twitter. And worst of all, not just Twitter, but Donald Trump Jr. I saw this and I actually responded to it earlier today while we were streaming. I like kind of let that slide in there. Totally normal to greet your wife with a firm handshake and bro hug / backslap. Tim Walz isn't weird at all, guys. So that was like something that Donald Trump Jr. thought was a good line of attack, to which I responded in the bitchiest way possible. Obviously, that was maybe a little too bitchy, but also a lot of this is about how people read people on camera. You cannot, no matter how hard you try, make a narrative like that stick with a guy like Tim Walz, because he doesn't read like that. He reads like a regular Midwestern dad. He reads too normal in comparison to the rest of the DC bureaucrats. And I'm not just saying that because I personally like him or like his background. I'm just also looking at the polls. He was a relatively lesser known governor who was very popular in his state. He was pretty popular in his state. But beyond that, in every state that he has appeared so far, he's leading in the approval ratings by like multiple digits at this point in comparison to even Kamala Harris. He's got like a +11 boost on Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris is a +2. So obviously people are responding to it positively as well. My normie friends who despise Joe Biden are genuinely elated with Walz. And the thing is, you can't look at that and be like, that's weird. That's the weird thing, actually. This guy who like hugged his wife after delivering his speech, shook her hand and then hugged her after his speech. That's the real weird thing, not us. When Trump is the presidential candidate for your party. Trump is notoriously odd when it comes to his relationship with his trophy wife. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. Like, it doesn't work. It will always fall on deaf ears. At the end of the day, we have primal lizard brains and we respond to shapes and colors on screen. So if something is so obviously in the opposite direction, you can't pull normal people in the margins into believing that. That is why, yeah, dude, they're coping about numbers like this. Michigan net favorables, Walz +14, Harris +2, Vance -6, Trump -10, Vance -11. Anyone that is like close enough to Ohio, which also despises Vance, is going to hate Vance. Walz +11, Harris +2. I told you.
Dana, look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all of the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire campaign has not been about, here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't know.
Oh, no, he your man. He big mad, Chad. He mad as fuck right now. Oh, they're just name calling us. No, that's the whole point of weird, dumbass. It's weird that you guys are hyper focusing on random nonsensical bullshit that you're lasered in on that ain't nobody gives a fuck about, instead of policies that actually help people. That's the whole point of the weird campaign. That's it. That's the whole point. So you can't reframe that now. You can't run away from that. Just be weird, bro. I mean, you are. You literally can't stop yourself. You just said, oh, I'm not weird. Tim Walz, he gave his wife a handshake. That's weird. Yeah. Okay. I'll look at this later. I got to finish this JD Vance thing. It's actually kind of fire. It's better than I thought it was going to be. One, Dana Fash is actually eating his ass alive. And two, he is just not doing well in this interview at all.
Notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about policy
positions
versus
about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out talking about the policies in this interview. You have been on the campaign trail.
Yeah, she said you started talking about the policies in this interview, and then resorted to saying that I'm not weird. Tim Walz is weird. Look at the way he shook his wife's hand, bro. I said this earlier, and I saw another chatter actually repeat it in the chat as well. One thing that they haven't done yet, I brought this up before, which I think will inevitably happen, is talk about how like JD Vance or I keep saying JD Vance. Tim Walz's sperm is weak, and that's why they had to do IVF. It's coming.
I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did.
Bros, this guy is like Republican Buttigieg, yes. And even Buttigieg has like a little bit more charisma than he does. Buttigieg has like more, I can't believe I'm saying this. Buttigieg has more swag than JD does. Straight up. They both got that dog in them though, like the ambition. It's poison. And you can tell when a dude is like such a careerist that is just so desperate for a crumb of power.
He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken.
Like this crazy, bro. Donald Trump literally dodged the draft, #1, which by the way, I think was good. It's good that he did that. Why the should you die for a genocidal campaign? Like, that's insane. #2, everybody, including Donald Trump and JD Vance, run on the anti-Iraq war narrative. So why the are you like, oh, I don't understand. This like 50-year-old guy was supposed to go kill himself in Iraq. It's really up that he didn't, but we also simultaneously believe and say that it was unjustifiable and wrong, and many Americans died for no reason. These two things don't make sense. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying?
I spoke to a woman named Kate Cox. She lives in Texas.
Sure.
She was 20 weeks pregnant. Her fetus was diagnosed with a disease called, it was a deadly genetic condition called trisomy 18. She said that carrying the pregnancy, she was told this by her doctors, to term, if the fetus even survived, would hurt her chances for having more children, which she and her husband desperately wanted. Why is not allowing her to end that pregnancy helpful?
Scorching, dude. Scorching and torching. This is the type of shit that makes me really angry with mainstream media, because they showed during the Trump administration that they do have the capacity to make adversarial journalism happen. That's why it makes me extra mad when Dana Fash comes out and uses that selective power on like anti-genocide protesters. You know what I mean? It's so frustrating. They never do this to insurance and healthcare executives, right? They never do this to like big pharma. They never do this to bankers. They only do this to like select few Republicans on ideological boundaries when they're annoyed with them. And it makes me so mad. You have the power. You can go ultra instinct all day, every day, but you never lock in when it comes to, I don't know, people who hold institutional power that are ruining people's lives on a daily basis. You only do this with the weakest people in society, people that have no representation. Very frustrating.
Well, first of all, Dana, my heart breaks for this woman. I don't know her personally. I've certainly heard the story, and our heart breaks for her. And we want people to have healthy, happy families. And it's extremely unfortunate that sometimes, you know, medicine, the act of God, whatever happens, it just doesn't work out. And what the president has said, I think, very clear.
To be fair, I think Vance is the representation for weird little freaks, Lamau. No, it's not enough. I'll just say it like this. I think CNN and all these other outlets actually see Donald Trump as a potential threat to the institutions, or what remains of the institutional stability. So yeah, they bring out their A game when it comes to like on Donald Trump and on JD Vance as an extension of on Donald Trump. They obviously love JD Vance when he wasn't Donald Trump's vice president. The problem is, I'm gonna get back to his insane response in a second, because holy that's a really bad response. The problem is there are so many severe inequalities in this nation. It's deeply frustrating to me that they do not address those issues. They do not address those problems, and they only have this smoke for like JD Vance. They should carry on this resentment to those in positions of power instead of like normalizing their positions. It's not simply because like it is a Republican that is advancing the cause. It's the cause itself that is utterly fundamentally flawed.
Because you do criticize, as you just did, the Democratic Party for being anti-family.
I do.
You called out Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg in particular. Kamala Harris has 2 stepchildren. Pete Buttigieg and his husband have adopted twins. Do you recognize them as parents and more broadly as being part of families?
Well, of course I do, Dana. I mean, you know my life story. I was
I would
actually
say-
So why'd you say they're childless cat ladies, or that they have no stake in the future of this country? Then
raised.
course.
I
You
was
called them out
raised,
by
but Dana,
people.
I was raised. I
By-
mean, one
by
of
name.
the first people that I gave a hug to after my RNC convention speech was my stepmom, who's been an incredibly important person in my
So
life.
she's not
my
childless,
kids, my
then?
kids call her Mamaw. Of course, she's not childless. But
you
again,
called her that.
the criticism. I certainly did not call my own stepmother
No.
childless.
Kamala Harris.
I criticized Kamala Harris for being part of a set of ideas that exists in American leadership.
I didn't realize how bad this was. Like, I genuinely didn't know it was this bad. This is 22 minutes of just like getting shellacked. I've never seen somebody just get whipped around so fucking hard. Like, this was like ha funny. At first, he's like, oh yeah, Trump said I'm weird. It's cool. I am weird. It's fine. Like, whatever. And now it's like, why the do you think your stepmother is not actually a real mother because of your statements about Kamala Harris, who has stepchildren?
One final point on this, Dana. If you go back to the COVID era, one thing that really frustrated me and motivated some of these comments is we were at a point where we were kicking kids out of school. We were masking 3-year-olds and putting the masks back on them, even as they were trying to rip them off at school. I think that if we had more people who took the right perspective and had a little bit more understanding of how little kids actually operate, we would not have made so many of those mistakes during COVID.
That's a whole nother conversation because
No, it's
people didn't know.
related to
no,
this
because
because
people
you-
didn't know as much because it was
But-
literally a novel
Sure,
virus.
but Dana, you asked me
I
about
just-
Okay, you've now asked me 3 questions about comments that
God, I mean, she's right.
I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that opened the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American
interviewing
people
you, not
about
Kamala
Joe
Harris.
Biden's middle facility for the office.
Bro, I've never seen someone Dana unlock Ultra Instinct that she only reserves for like brown women that are pro-Palestine. Like, she's treating JD Vance like he's Mahmoud Abbas or something. Like,
One last question. This is on policy.
Please.
The Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Donald Trump said this week that he feels strongly that the president should have at least a say when it comes to the Federal Reserve and how to handle interest rates. Do you agree that a president should direct the Federal Reserve on how to handle interest rates?
Well, not direct. That's not what he said. He said the president should have a say. But one, I absolutely agree with what he said.
Right now,
And
the president
two,
doesn't have a say.
Well, the president has a say in the sense that the president appoints the Federal
Right.
Reserve governors. But he's saying, to be clear, President Trump is saying, I think, something that's really important and actually profound, which is that the political leadership of this country should have more say over the monetary policy of this country. I agree with him. That should fundamentally be a political decision. Agree or disagree, we should have America's elected leaders having input about the most important decisions confronting our country.
That would
The
be a
question to
huge
go-
change, just so people understand
It
that.
would be a huge change, but whether the country goes to war, what our interest rates are, these are important questions that American democracy should have important answers for. And I think all President Trump is saying is that, look, it's kind of weird that you have so many bureaucrats making so many important decisions. If the American people don't like our interest rate policy, they should elect somebody different to change that policy. Nothing should be above democratic debate in this country when it comes to the big questions confronting the United States.
if only there was a body of the government that could also do, like, obviously not monetary policy, but fiscal policy, if they wanted to do like deflationary things that, you know, responded to democratic pressures. I just can't seem to put my finger on how that would work, though, because I like that. I like the idea of having like, you know, people having a say in what happens in the economy, but I just can't seem to think of a body of the government where maybe like people could get together and deliberate on such decisions, and then maybe they could like write rules. Like I guess I could think of like one deflationary mechanism, like a fiscal policy, like tax, not breaks, but tax hikes. Oh well, I can't really seem to put my finger on what that would be like. What's JD Vance's current job? Oh, that's right, he's a senator. Certainly you have no power on this process. I don't know. What the was I thinking?
Okay, one last question.
Please.
And I can't believe I have to ask you this, but I do, because Donald Trump has been attacking Kamala Harris's racial identity.
He has not been,
He-
but ask your question.
Well, he questioned her racial identity. He said a number of years ago she happened to turn black. Her father is Jamaican. Do you believe Kamala Harris is black?
I believe that Kamala Harris is whatever she says she is, but I believe importantly that President Trump is right that she's a chameleon. She pretends to be one thing in front of one audience. She pretends to be something different in front of another audience. Look, Dana, she's not running.
Dog, you literally were a liberal until like 2 years ago. You can say she's black. Like, she's just black. I don't know why you're doing this thing. It's additionally weird because your wife is Indian and your children are mixed. Your children are half Indian, half white. Kamala Harris's father is black. Kamala Harris's mother is Indian. So like, you have a unique closeness to this issue. You feel me? Like, you are uniquely closer than the average American, as a matter of fact, to the situation that you are addressing currently. You're definitely closer than Donald Trump. He's literally calling her a code switcher. He's not even saying that though. He's just making it seem like Kamala Harris ceases to be black at a certain point. What would you say? I mean, I guess there's a way to be like, yeah, she code switches, but that's like normal politics anyway. But claiming that someone is pretending to be black when they are black is going to come across as very weird to everyone with a brain cell, especially black people.
Running a political campaign, she's running a movie. She only speaks to voters behind a teleprompter. Everything is scripted. She doesn't have her policy positions out there. She hasn't answered why she wanted to ban fracking, but now she doesn't. She wanted to fund police, but now she doesn't. She wanted to open the border, but now she doesn't. She should have to answer.
Like, she's not even like logic level. You know what I mean? Like, she's very obviously black. That's the other part. Like, it's not like she's like a quarter black or something and very light skin and whatever. Like, she's just like clearly black. She went to Howard. Like, what the she's a part of the Divine Nine. Like, it doesn't get more black than that. These are things that most white people don't even know, okay? That's how black it is. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, who are you talking to when you say this? I guess racists? I don't know.
She wanted to open the border, but now she doesn't. She should have to answer for why she presents a different set of policies to one audience and a different set of policies to another audience. And I think that's what President Trump is getting at. This is a fundamentally fake person. She's different depending on who she's in front of.
With respect, you
Please.
changed your position on an important thing, which is Donald Trump.
Of course I did.
And so why are
honest
you not a
about it.
chameleon?
Because, Dana, I've explained to the American people what's different. People change their minds when the facts change. They should. But if you want to be the people's vice president or president, you should have to stand before an interviewer and say, this is why I changed my mind. So to everybody who's seen that I criticized Donald Trump, since he asked the question, here are two things.
You didn't just criticize him. You said he could be America's Hitler.
Well, that's a criticism, and I didn't say that exactly, but set that to the side. What I said about Donald Trump and what I believed about
like, you're looking like a flip-flopper right now, dog. You are looking like an unserious flip-flopper currently.
Donald Trump, two things that really change. First of all, I didn't think Donald Trump would be a good president. He was a great president. Wages were rising. The world was more peaceful. Remember, when Donald Trump was running for president the first time, they said he would start World War III. He brought more peace to the world than any president of my lifetime. The second thing, Dana, is I believed, and I'm ashamed of it, I believed a lot of the media lies about Donald Trump in 2016. I believe that he said.
This is such a funny patch-up job for JD Vance to be like, I was a 35-year-old idiot. Like, I was duped by the media in my young ass age, okay? They duped me when I wrote a book and was doing my tour on MSNBC. I was a 35-year-old baby who believed the mainstream media lies. Like, come on, man. You look like a unserious dumbass.
Things like, for example, the media said Donald Trump accused all Mexicans of being rapists and criminals. You actually look at what he said. He did not say that at all.
Yeah, he said and some I suspect are fine people. Come on, dude. What are you saying? How are we still arguing on this front? Donald Trump, I'll give you guys a rare one that many people have forgotten about. Donald Trump once had a court case, and the judge was obviously an American judge of Mexican descent. He argued to take the judge off of his case because he said he's Mexican and therefore probably has biases against me. That's just racism. Like, what do you mean? You're like, oh, that's a Mexican judge. Substitute that for black. I understand what that is. It's kind of crazy that he's had so many insanely racist moments that like we basically forgot about it. We forgot about half of them because it's impossible to keep up with it. Like there's a conflict of interest argument that you can make if the judge knows you personally. Judges get recused all the time. Being Mexican is not a conflict of interest. He's not even Mexican. He's American of Mexican heritage.
When Hillary Clinton says this is a racist attack and you reject that, if you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
No, I don't think so at all.
No?
No, he's proud of his heritage. I respect him for
You're
that.
saying he can't do his job because of it.
Look, he's proud of his heritage, okay? I'm building a wall. Now, I think I'm going to do very well
He's a
with
legal
Hispanics. You
citizen.
know why I'm going to do well with Hispanics? Because I'm going to bring back jobs, and they're going to get jobs right now. They're going to get jobs. I think I'm going to do very well with Hispanics, but we're building a wall. He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and...
Damn, he was like way faster, dude. God damn. Yo, he aged, bro. That's crazy. He was like way more confident too. He is so auraless, bro. He's got no fucking riz.
Mexico. The answer is he is giving us very unfair rulings that people can't even believe. This case should have ended years ago on summary judgment. The best lawyers, I have spoken to so many lawyers, they said, this is not a case, this is a case that should have ended. This judge is giving us unfair rulings. Now I say why. Well, I'm building a wall, okay? And it's a wall between Mexico, not another country.
But he's not from Mexico.
In my opinion,
he's from Indiana.
He's Mexican heritage, and he's very proud.
Oh my God. What a insane. He's not from Mexico. He's from Indiana. Oh my God. Banger after banger with this one. I swear, dude. Now look at
And
that.
I think it's important when you see something, you change your mind, and that's all I've done. And my pitch to the American people would be, I imagine a lot of folks who are thinking about voting for Donald Trump in 2024, maybe they've bought in to the media lies about him. Think for yourself, look at what he actually said, and I think you'll find that he's, one, a very engaging guy, but two, was a very good president.
There aren't media lies. We play him and we let him speak for himself, and so people are getting exactly.
I'm not accusing you of lying,
No, I know,
Dana.
I
You
know.
know I like you, but
No,
the
I know
media
you're not.
lies from time to
I know
time
you're
about
not, but
Donald Trump.
people hear him for himself. Last question.
Please.
Are you going to debate Tim Walz?
Of course. I want to debate Tim Walz. I think it's important, and I think that it goes to a very fundamental difference between the Trump-Vance.
How do you think Vance is coming off the slightly conservative normies? To us, he sounds ridiculous right now. And to MAGA, he probably sounds like a genius. But I can't judge what the standard conservative, politically illiterate public thinks. I think he's being shellacked pretty aggressively. So he doesn't have enough charisma to actually salvage his reputation. The best possible thing that you can do to make a better analysis on this, to understand exactly how the public sees it, is by just looking at approval ratings. And he is underwater for the most part. If you simply listen to him, sometimes he can come across as moderate. The problem is he has so much. He has spoken so consistently about some of the most unhinged, most insane shit that ultimately it doesn't really matter. Like Matt Walsh glazed him, but Matt Walsh is not a normal conservative, right? Matt Walsh is insane. I keep reading on Twitter that JD Wayne got destroyed and embarrassed on Sunday, but every clip I see is making him absolute mincemeat of the hack journals interrogating him. Never has an embarrassing performance been this masterful. There's a reason why he has unimaginably low approval ratings, because the thing is, the media is pretty well equipped at like dunking on guys like this, and there's blood in the water. They see it. Like, it's so easy to just on him. He has said so many insane things. He is a very annoying little worm that desperately wanted approval from the Republican right, and in an effort to get that approval from the Republican right, he went to like insane lengths. Like, he went to all the weird, gross, like Groyper podcasts and shit. He has mountains of oppo against him. Comer launches probe into Harris's work on the border. Yeah, I mean, they're doing the right thing, man. They're playing politics. Democrats should learn a thing or two. They want this to be the forefront of the political conversation. The border's our narrative, and they want it to stick. So they're gonna do this like dumb shit. If only Democrats could utilize this tool against, I don't know, profoundly unpopular majority right-wing institutions like the Supreme Court of the United States. I don't know. That could have been a good idea, Dick Durbin. You lead the Senate Judiciary Committee. What are you doing? If only the Democrats knew how to play the game of politics. That could be cool. Like, that's literally a gift. The Supreme Court is insanely unpopular, untraditionally unpopular. It is also very right-wing. Donald Trump gave 3 appointments to the overwhelming supermajority right-wing Supreme Court. If only someone could actually hold some Senate committee hearings on a probe, for example, on how corrupt they are. Just they're so dumb. They're still so stupid.